you do.
I'm walking the streets of Shanghai. It's in the French concession. It's a good day. It's a little bit chilly, and the sun is up. And you can see the sun through the trees coming there. And along the side, there is small coffee shops serving cafe lattes and to commuters like myself. And there is side by side with this steamed buns bakery making breakfast in the traditional Chinese way. It's a perfect mix of European, Western, Chinese culture. It's young and old and fresh. I'm on my way to my studio. It's a few blocks away. And on my way, I see bikes. I see lots of bikes. There are green bikes, red bikes, blue bikes, mostly orange bikes, lots of bikes. And all of these bikes, they're accessed by a mobile app. You take a mobile app and you can unlock the bike. You rent it for 1 kwai. That's sort of 1 crown in Swedish. And you can zip along the street, go to your destination, wherever you want to go. It's a perfect solution for the crowded streets of Shanghai and Beijing and the other major cities in China. It's a very good solution, scaling neatly, addressing the world. And when I look at the world and when I look at problems, because I want to talk about a little bit of problems and a little bit of solutions, I see lots of problems with exponential growth. Things are going so fast today, and it's growing so fast exponentially. So it's really hard to keep up with it. It's both in a good way. We see companies, they flourish, like Google and Facebook and Alibaba. But we also see lots of problems. And in China, for example, in this city, some of the buildings here, they are over 600 meters tall. And 70% of the population in China is still living on the countryside on their way into the cities. And they're getting the modern way of life. They're getting cars, they're getting energy consumption, they're getting TVs, they start consuming goods and food. And of course, we get problems with climate change, we get problems with environment and congestion and so. And we try to keep up, and we're building. In China, during 3 years, China consumed more concrete than US did during the whole 20th century. During 100 years, they consumed more concrete in 3 years' time. This is of an exponential growth. So what do? Yeah, you build more roads because we have congestion. So you build bigger roads, we build faster trains and smoother airports. And we think that this is the solution to it. And in some way it is. But at the same time, we know that we're going to end up with more traffic. This is always the case. You build a little bit bigger road, can fit a bit more cars. It goes faster to drive to work. So what do people do? Yeah, you get another car. So you can drive you too. So we're in a world of exponential growth, both good and bad. And when we look at it 10 to 20 years ahead, we see that it's off the chart. It doesn't work anymore. We have pension funds that can't pay the pension anymore. We have healthcare system. The cost is skyrocketing. And we have congestion, traffic, and environment. This is my daughter. She's 5 years old. In 20 years' time, she will maybe not even have finished her university degree. And we have a hard time to depict this world in 20 years from now. And then we had quantum computers, and it's going to go even faster. And at the same time, this is also a huge market potential. Because out there is lots of people like myself. We're entrepreneurs, we're builders, we're trying to fix this. And I think that the only way of starting a company, the only way that you can really change something, and the only way you should start a company, is to make something good. Right the wrong. Do something. Fix the world, because it desperately needs to be fixed right now. And if you're about to fix the world, you need a huge market. Because if you come up with this brilliant solution that really solves something, and nobody's using it, what difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference. So you need to get out there by the millions to do it. If we look at the healthcare industry in China, the elderly care industry in China is going to grow from 490 billion to 22 trillion in 35 years. How are we going to solve that? And this is the same all around the world. It's not just China. It looks like this all around the world. How are we going to afford the future market? All of these people in China in 10 years' time, there's going to be 170 million people in wheelchairs. With a one-child policy, there's not enough people to push them around. How are we going to solve it? We need to get these people to continue with their lives. We can't move them to the hospitals because it's too expensive. It takes too much money, too much resources. We can't keep them at home. So one way of doing it is an autonomous wheelchair. They should be able to go around by themselves. They should not go to the hospital. They should stay at home, continue with their life, continue with what they do, go to the local market, meet your friends, meet your family. We shouldn't fix healthcare. We should keep them out of healthcare. And this goes on. So we have transportation. We've seen it before. Transportation is a big industry, and software is eating the world. Have you heard that? Yes. Software is eating the world. It's changing the way we run businesses. Fundamentally, every business is affected. But at the same time, for example, Uber, right now, I don't know if Uber is doing anything, but Uber used to be trying to change transportation. But Uber is a way of booking a taxi. It's a very efficient way of booking a taxi. But it's not changing the car. It's still fossil fuel driven. We need electric cars. But we had electric cars for years. We had it for 100 years. The first car were even electric. So it's been around for so long time. But the trick is to get the electric car out to the masses. We need millions and millions of people to run the electric car. Not 1, not 10, not 1,000. We need to have a different way of thinking. So, for example, bike sharing. Bike sharing is brilliant. You use your own muscle power, you rent it for 1 kwai, you can go anywhere in the city, and you just leave it on the street. But there is lots of bikes. Lots of bikes, because you have a software mentality, building bike sharing schemes and bike sharing companies. And you're putting millions and millions of bikes on the streets. So we end up with this. In Beijing, we had a ban for new bike sharing schemes. The reason is that we put 1.3 million bikes on the streets of Beijing. It's not that bad in Shanghai. I can still walk around. This movie is from on my way to my office in Shanghai. In Beijing, it's even worse. You can't even walk in some streets because there are so many bikes everywhere. And when we look at these problems, we're trying to do good. We're trying to solve the world. We're trying to change something. We need to look at everything, because if we just take our technology and just take what we do and expect everybody to use it, it's not going to work. And even if we do take our technology and expect everybody to use it, and everybody starts using it, we still might end up with a traffic jam of bikes in the city. So if we start with the technology and we look at everything you have trying to fix the world, you look at all the available technology you can use for this one. You have the solution space here. This is what you can do to bring your brilliant idea to the masses. And then you mix this, for example, with users and UX. Because if you have a good technology solution to this problem and nobody is really using it, what difference does it make? Or even worse, people are actually using it, but they hate it. Okay, it's not going to work. So you end up with this overlap between the technology and the user experience and interaction design, or what you want to call it. And it's the intersection in between that's interesting, because in there lies the little secret to your product to getting it out. But it's not enough, because you're going to add business logic. And with business logic, you need to make a business out of it. Otherwise, you have 2 options. One is that you have this brilliant idea, you don't have the money to really scale it up and really get it out, so there's not that many people using it. Or it's actually scaling up, but you're losing money on everyone using your service, so you're going to go bankrupt. So you need the business logic to be there in there as well. But the space, the solution space you're looking into is shrinking. It's getting smaller and smaller every time. And you add more and more parts to this one. I took 5 in this example, and we have the competitors and we have the marketing, and we see that the more we add to it, the smaller the solution space gets. And on the same time, we're out here to change the world. We know we want to make something good. We want to build this solution that's going to be good for our kids, for ourselves, for the future. But if we're looking this narrow and we're trying to solve it, we often end up with an incremental change. We have an exponential problem, and we come up with a solution that's a bit better than the competitors, a bit better than status quo on the market. And if it's a bit better, but the problem is skyrocketing, what difference does it make? It's like the cars we have today. Yeah, they consume a little bit less fuel. Does it matter? Yeah, it's good, but does it change climate change? No, it's not. It's not going to work. So we need to bridge this gap. How do you go from the incremental change to the exponential growth problem? How do you build the product that's really attacking the core and really getting out there? And at the same time, these people that we're talking about, it's like you and me. We're here at this conference. We're trying to change. We're trying to do good. So I have a little technique that I want to share here. And I call it Immoral Thinking. Because we're here and we're trying to solve, and we are so narrowed down, and we think of everything in this solution space. We think of the technology, we think of the competitors and everything. So we realize that this is not really gonna scale, and we need millions of people using this one. It should spread like a disease if we're gonna fix pension funds or healthcare, climate change, congestion, you name it. So we look at these different ones, and one thing that's often in the way is the competitors. And the competitors, they're standing for status quo. They want to perceive what's out there. They want to continue working as they are. And they're keeping you from getting out there. So what you want to do is to kill them. You should look down into yourself and bring out those really dark thoughts. What's the worst thing you can do? Be nasty, be evil. And this is kind of important, because if you start out as a bad guy and continue being bad, it's most likely not going to work. But if you start out as the good guy and really trying to solve it, then you need to go here. Look at the baddie inside you. Be the bad guy in the Bond movie. We were doing the most boring thing on earth. We were doing bookkeeping. Anyone like bookkeeping? I don't think you like bookkeeping. I hate it. That's why we came up with the idea that this sucks. We need to fix this. We need to build a software that we can use ourselves. So we built a bookkeeping software. And we suddenly realized that if we're going to bring this to all these entrepreneurs out there, there is so many issues. And one thing is that, we have all of these competitors, and they are paying for all the ads for it. And they're paying to Facebook and Google. And just because Facebook and Google is a big monopoly and taking all the ad money, it's not right that we should give them the money to do it. So we thought, we need to kill the competitors. So we swapped our mind and said, what's the worst thing we can do? Be the bad guys. What should you do? And we look at the clients we have. And we think that, hey, they don't know anything about bookkeeping. They don't want to know anything about it. They may be sitting in a taxi, running a little taxi service. They don't have any staff to do it. They don't have any time. They don't even have any money to do it. They barely get the money to pay their own salary. And at the same time, we have the competitors charging them money, exploiting this situation that they have to do bookkeeping just because of the tax office. So we thought of, what's the worst thing you can do? Give it away free. Build a superior product, give it away for free, do something that the users and the UX is just so much better than the rest of it. And we don't even need to market it, because if it's free and the best product out there, they're going to market them themselves. It's a brilliant idea. We could get everything together except the little business logic thing up there, because you still need to make money. Otherwise, you're going to go bankrupt, especially if you have thousands and thousands of users. But this way of thinking, of being the good guys, turning into the bad guys, understanding that, wait a minute, the really bad guys, that's the competitors. They're trying to defend the status quo. They're trying to keep what's out there. And we don't like what's out there. Then we checked into the business model as well, and we understood that we can maybe use the data. In this case, we could use the data to enable credits from banks, for example, and we get a revenue share out of the banks. So we enable credits even for these entrepreneurs. They can't get it today, but with this service they can. But the trick is that if you're trying to solve the world, if you're trying to do something good, let yourself be the bad guy for a little moment, and I bet you're soon going to realize that this immoral thinking going to turn out as something kind of more moral. And if we're trying to solve the world, you need to have that exponential growth in your service. Otherwise, there will be maybe 1,000 people using your service, and it doesn't matter if we're 1,000 people. It matters if there's millions changing the way they're living. Thank you.